Hey everyone, Mr. Happy here, and today I want to talk about a very particular element of Final Fantasy XVI, the arcade mode. For those unaware, at the Arete Stone, you can choose to replay stages under either a normal stage replay function or compete in arcade mode. This allows you to take on the missions with an additional performance grading mechanic. It accumulates the bonuses you earn in combat, designated by all those combat alerts you've been getting on the right side of your screen the whole game. These actually grant you points inside of arcade mode. It then tallies up the points, and at the end of every battle area grants you a graded score up to a maximum of S rank. At the end of the stage, you get some bonuses added based on specific performance parameters like parrying enough times, dodging enough times, doing certain things on certain bosses, etc, etc. And then you have your final grade on the stage. If you get an S rank, it even puts a little trophy next to that stage. This is meant to emulate Devil May Cry's style meter, which is a mainstay of that franchise. In that game, it's a core part of the game experience, being told to you constantly throughout the story, while here, it's effectively side content for hardcore action gamers. And that's fine. There's no achievements locked behind it, so it'll be something for people like me who really have an action itch and want to get a bit more mileage out of the game, especially with worldwide competitive leaderboards for the higher difficulties. Now, on the surface, that's great, but arcade mode goes a bit deeper and along the way loses its luster. While you can play through arcade mode in your normal playthrough, things really kick it up a notch on New Game Plus if you opt into the Final Fantasy difficulty. This increases the levels and aggression of most monsters in the game and remixes the stage enemy layouts to be more difficult. Arcade mode includes a Final Fantasy difficulty when playing on New Game Plus, but it also includes an additional difficulty, Ultimaniac mode. Here, the enemies hit even harder and are even more aggressive. So not only are you trying to be as stylish as possible, but the risk of death is immense. The big kicker is that dying on Ultimaniac forces you to restart the whole stage, so it's really all or nothing. Again, this would be perfectly fine in most cases. It just means you need to balance safety and efficiency while performing as many different attacks as possible. It's not much different than what I expect from something like this difficulty, and again, I love the Devil May Cry series, so that's right up my alley. However, specifically in Ultimaniac mode, this grading system is completely broken. I've gone through stages with nearly flawless performances, tons of active dodging, parrying, countering, and ultra-punishing stagger combos to beat enemies as quick as possible. And then I'll come out on the other side and get like a B or an A. Now, my first thought is, okay, I thought I knew the game really well, but clearly I don't know it well enough. Maybe I wasn't being varied enough. Maybe I really need to try to get as many different types of combos, get parries, like maybe stall things out a little bit just so I can get a couple of extra things before I end the stage and really crank my score up. That's what I thought was the case. What I found instead was that Ultimaniac's grading system is so harshly balanced that the only effective means of scoring was to take as long as humanly possible on every boss and enemy that I encountered. At first, I tested doing almost nothing but Titan blocks and using short cooldown skills under stagger, all of which granted like 20,000 points per time I did them. Low damage skills during the stagger windows meant that the enemy would stay alive longer, and thus I could get more stagger windows throughout the fight. And I did pretty well. My scores were way higher than what I was doing otherwise, even if I wasn't really having as much fun. But then I started talking with some members in the community and found out that there were even stronger means of point farming. Pretty much spam skills and just spam like one skill over and over again that has a decent point bonus, and that'll pretty much do the trick. Some were literally just using wind up from Titan on cooldown and not even doing the red one, doing the yellow one in between so it doesn't do as much damage. Some were going with Heaven's Cloud and Rift Slip to get Rift Slip combos for a little bit extra because those don't do any damage and do generate points as long as you actually follow it up. But the theme is the same. Spam one attack that has an easy to access point bonus and drag every single trash mob and boss fight out as long as humanly possible. I'm talking about like 60 to 90 minutes for some of the stages here. It wasn't fast, it definitely wasn't stylish, and worst of all, it wasn't fun. It's crazy because Final Fantasy difficulty and even the action-focused one in New Game aren't nearly as strict as this. Those were somewhat reasonable. Like, yeah, if you go around one-shotting things with Zantetsuken every wave, yeah, you're not going to score enough points even in that mode. So you do need to be a bit varied and a bit stylish to get accolade bonuses, to try and trigger certain things, group enemies up so you can hit lots of targets with collateral bonuses, things that make sense. You know, you're using your skills more intelligently to completely neutralize in a more efficient or stylish manner. But in Ultimaniac, unless I'm missing something and the community is missing something as a whole, there just doesn't seem to be any incentive for scoring players to do anything but drag things out and not do cool stuff or even use more than one skill. Now, this issue does stem from a number of decisions the dev team appears to have made to try and balance out score. And it's one of those things that I kind of get, but it's the worst end of the spectrum that you could have. For one, actions that deal no damage often reward little to no points. This means that major gameplay mechanics like parrying, precision dodging, and even blocking do not reward points outright. They instead open up enemies to the respective counters, and those counters will generate more points because you'll get another little bonus thing. Also, enemies that cast Cure, they reset your entire leg being like a term for a part of the stage, the entire leg's points to 0. Both of these suggest that they didn't want people to sit there farming points with actions that don't deal damage. You always have to be progressing on an enemy's health bar in order to progress on getting points. This then just makes the points it does reward seem very strange, since the style doesn't seem to be associated with outgoing damage directly, instead opting into the style bonuses that can sometimes be abused for minimum overall damage. If you use wind up 5 times in a fight, it becomes a rainbow grade attack, because using some attacks repeatedly just increases their grade. But you can, as long as you get the like light charge, the yellow charge area, you get the precision timing, you get all the points with it, and you get the bonus. So you start generating like 40,000 points every time you perform a single windup, and you're only doing a couple thousand damage. So again, you can just drag the fights out as long as humanly possible. And that's only accelerated with some of the other strats, which are getting way higher points than the whole windup thing that I'm even mentioning. So what can realistically be done? I think a lot of things. This isn't like some sort of big mystery secret that they couldn't possibly have figured out. I think option number 1 is fixing this to better balance the reward scale. If they want you to do damage, then it needs to be based on outgoing damage. Yes, the actual point bonuses should matter a lot too, but if you pull off a 300,000 damage stagger, you shouldn't be punished because the fight ended faster. You should be rewarded because you've managed to pull off a really serious combo, and doing that while trying to generate points on the rest of the enemies does show a really good understanding of the game. At the very least, that's just an example, but you get my point. Damage should be more associated with your points and how much you're gaining over the style point bonuses to negate this type of problem. Now, secondly, there's no time bonus for beating these stages quickly, and there's no penalty for taking too long, which is why you can just stall out these attacks. There's not even an accolade for just wiping through the stage as quick as possible, which at the very least they could have used to offset the slower strategies by making that particular bonus worth more, but then they don't want people feeling like they have to use one build to get a specific time. Like, it's just one of those really, really tight and hard to balance things, but I still think time not playing a factor at all is just kind of a missed opportunity. So in other words, this is why people stall things out. So option number 2 is to incorporate a soft time limit or a time grading mechanic. Let's say they give you a time limit of 2 minutes to wipe out a wave, and you succeed in culling the wave in 90 seconds. You should receive a time bonus for the 30 seconds that you were under that time. Now, if you fail, you should then lose points based on the amount of time spent. I think making this potentially a multiplier might be the best kind of balance in between instead of a flat point bonus, because if it is just a time bonus and it's too powerful, then, you know, you end up just kind of going with Zentetsuken and again, just kind of foregoing style. So probably making it a multiplier, so having a lot of points that you generate from doing lots of different actions and bonuses would balance this out. And then if you go below, then you start going down. And if you take too long, you could honestly make it go all the way to 0. That way stalling out is completely negated altogether. And finally, regardless of both of those changes, I think they need to rebalance the point totals in Ultimaniac itself. Again, Final Fantasy mode and action-based mode are fine, but in Ultimaniac, I did wind up for like 20 minutes straight on a fight. Got hundreds of thousands more points than all of my other attempts, even another stall run where I just did the Titan blocking, and I still didn't get an S. Meanwhile, I slap the boss as fast as possible, I freeze them with counterattacks, I dodge, I frequently use my skills, I go for big stagger damage, and I get like 600,000 points less than even on the first attempt in doing the fight in like 1/4 the time. If you can't achieve ranks by actively playing the game in a more realistic fashion, that tells me you only want me to play the game in that one specific way that is super slow, and that's no fun. So those are 3 things they could do to fix it. I'm sure that they could do more than that, but I do have some other feedback on arcade mode itself. Now, you can actually look at what you were using on your most previous run. Not all of them, just the most recent, or I think the best scoring one that you have registered. But I can't actually see what I scored in each leg. I can only see the point total and what my build actually was. So I'd like to be able to look at the breakdown of each individual leg that I got on the stage, so I can see where are my weaknesses, what enemies were in that wave, do I need to retake something to, kind of fix my problem? Was it just executional? Did I forget to stop a cure? Any of that information would be useful in trying to shore up what I'm doing, whether it be play style or just execution. Another big thing, though, is that the accolades you earn at the end of a stage aren't listed anywhere in game, and a lot of them are very specific to arcade mode, like taking no hits of damage or stopping an attack before it can actually be pulled off. For example, on the Garuda fight, actually stopping the lunge itself, which just requires you to pop a ranged attack in her face before she hits you, but there's no way I could have known that's worth bonus points if I didn't do it already, because that's not listed in game anywhere. So I think you need some sort of list of accolades for each stage as well. And one last thing, it'd be nice to see what point totals actually achieve what rank. I don't think this is necessary. It's not something I ever wanted in Devil May Cry. And Devil May Cry does do something kind of similar to determine what grade you get at the end of a stage. But here, it makes a little bit more sense. In Devil May Cry, as you deal damage, as you use a variety of attacks, and as you get hit, it's looking at how well you earn and maintain your style. So even if you get a triple S in a fight, if it wasn't that impressive because how you did it wasn't very varied, then you might walk away with less points than you want. But at the very least, that number is always changing and moving at every point of the stage until the very end, where you then get multipliers based on things like not taking hits, time, stuff like that. But here, your point total is almost always just going up unless you have that cure mistake happen. So if it's just going to go up and up and up, then having a goalpost seems like it makes a little bit more sense than it would in Devil May Cry. Now, I know this isn't really content that affects everyone. Heck, I'm probably one of the few people you'll hear even talking about this, because I think most people are not really trying to earn score, compete on leaderboards. I just don't think that's what most people are doing in a Final Fantasy game. But I want the leaderboards to feel like a good thing for us style heads. And even if you are a more casual player who just wants to beat Ultimaniac as a difficulty and not actually play through arcade mode with the intent of scoring in the leaderboards, I just think it's still more rewarding, because even if you're not playing for style points, but you are playing for the difficulty, you're going to see yourself getting like a C or a B or something, go like, what the heck? I demolished that wave. I did so well there. At least I thought I did. Am I doing something wrong? It still gets in your head because the score is just present. So my personal opinion, for now, I just plan on rebeating, quote unquote, the game on Ultimaniac and foregoing scoring for the remaining stages that I haven't done yet, just to give myself an excuse to beat the game one more time. And if they ever fix it, then I'll go back and try to actually get all those S ranks and everything like that. But as long as I have to sit there and just spam Wind Up or Heaven's Cloud or Rift Slip and that's it, and I do it for like 2 hours per stage, it's like, I'm not going to do that. Oh, and you know what? I almost forgot to mention, I'd like a proper time attack mode, a mix of style and speed similar to the Chronolith trials. I think that would be really cool to have for these stages. Heck, I would like Chronolith trial versions of stages where you have to try and do it with only a specific set of skills. And I don't know. I think there's room to enhance it, is what I'm saying. And maybe even update it. And who knows? Maybe they will. But for now, that's the video, I guess. Anyway, that's going to be right for my video on the arcade mode for Final Fantasy 16. I'll actually be talking about the difficulty of Final Fantasy mode and Ultimaniac mode in a separate video, but for now, I just wanted to focus on that scoring aspect. Be sure to like, favorite, subscribe, and share, and stay tuned. If we get any updates to Final Fantasy 16, I'll be posting them. If I have anything else to say about the game, I'll be posting it. So stay tuned throughout July, because I'm sure I'll have plenty of videos coming down the pipeline. Anyway, thanks for watching. I'll see you in the next one. And until then, take care.